Hi, everyone. It's Henry DeVries from Indie Books International. Welcome to the Marketing with a Book podcast. It's our chance to get together and have a discussion with authors about their books and about what's happening in the world of publishing and writing. So we're so glad you're with us today. We like to start off with an author roll call, a roundup of the people who are here. I'm going to start with David Goldman and Diane Ployce. Take it away.
Thanks, Henry. Hi, I'm David Goldman. I'm from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and I wrote the book, The Road to Happiness, How to Get What You Really Want. And I cannot get this right. Here we go.
Thanks, David. Let's go with Diane and Christopher Hodges.
Hello, everyone. My name is Diane Ployce. I'm from the San Francisco Bay Area. My book in process is Questions to Ask When You're Investigating a Franchise.
Thanks. Chris Hodges and then Joe Paulo.
Hello, everybody. My name is Chris Hodges. I'm the author of Your Noble Robot, Accelerate Innovation and Employee Engagement with Intelligent Automation. And I live in Denver, and that's my summer home.
Thanks, Chris. And nice cover there. Joe and then John.
Hello, everybody. My name is Joe Paulo. I'm in Shoreview, Minnesota. The title of my book is How to Sell Nothing Better Than Everybody Else. I don't have the book yet. Chris, that was a cool cover. I did like it.
Thanks, Joe.
Hi, I'm John
How
Lockhorst.
about Lisa? And then, John and then Lisa.
I'm John Lockhorst, and I am from Minneapolis, Minnesota, just a hop, skip, and a jump from Joe. And I am the author of the newly released book, Mission Critical Leadership.
And then Lisa and Mark.
Hi, I'm Lisa Apolinski. I am the CEO and founder of Three Dog Right, and I work with companies who are looking to accelerate revenue and take market share using digital means.
And on a personal note?
On a personal note, I have sung professionally for over 20 years. We're back at church choir full-time, which is fantastic. And because clearly I don't have enough to do, I'm also learning how to play the violin, which is not for the faint of heart.
Lisa's going to be our special guest today. Thanks for being here. Mark and then Mary.
Thank you, Henry. My name is Mark LeBlanc out of Minneapolis, and honored to be co-authoring the book Rainmaker Confidential with Scott Love and Henry DeVries.
Thanks, Mark. Mary and then Megan.
Hi, I am Mary Schmidt from Minneapolis, Minnesota, along with a couple of my buddies here. My book is called Make or Break Conversations: How Smart Financial Professionals Land and Keep Clients for Life.
Thanks for being with us, Mary. And then Megan Kent.
Sorry.
Megan, tell us about your book.
Okay, first of all, I'm from Brooklyn. No, I'm not. I'm from California, but I live in sunny Brooklyn. And for all you Minnesota people, by the way, I lived in Minneapolis for 3 years. I just want you to know. So my book, which will be printed by June 7th, is Build an Irresistible Brand, Harness the Power of Universal Human Instincts, Learn the 7 brain-friendly branding drivers, stop wasting resources, attract customers effortlessly, and keep them for life.
One of the Minnesota people gave a shout out. They said, best 3 years of your life, Megan Kent, the Minneapolis years. Well, at least half of those years were the best 3 years of her life. I've been there in January to meet with Mark. I had to buy a new wardrobe. Mark Twain said, beware of any venture that requires you to buy new clothes. But my California wardrobe was not going to cut it that week. Well, thanks everybody for being here. Speaking of Mark LeBlanc, my partner in Indie Books, the guy who 7 years ago, when I said how much of Indie Books he wanted, he said half. And that was a great decision. So we've been moving forward here for 7 years. Mark, do you have any inspiration or word of wisdom for us?
Oh, I do. For today, I want you to answer the $1 million question. And the $1 million question is, what one program, product, presentation, or service do you specifically want to sell more of? One, it could be a higher end program that you want to sell more of, or two, it could be what I call a gateway sale, meaning if you sold more of A, it would lead to more of sales of B or everything else on your menu. So you could even think of this as what we call your signature dish or your flagship presentation. But imagine in the world of focus, if you could develop an extreme degree of focus around the one thing that you specifically want to sell more of. Thank you, Henry.
Thanks. Well, Mark, I wanted to highlight something before I brought Lisa on, and that is something you call the showcase strategy. You introduced it to me, and every author in here on our program today is doing the showcase strategy. Where can you get in front of people on a monthly basis and help them with information, talk about your book? If you want to speak more, you need to speak. People need to hear you. They need to be introduced to you. What we call the authors at Indie Books, we call them the family. And you should reach out and meet members of the family. The call is where they can hear who you are and what you're about. I know a lot of family members are doing things together, and that's a great idea. Well, one of the family members that I chose to do something together with is Lisa Apolinski. I helped Lisa with her first book, publishing her first book, which is Weathering the Digital Storm. And I found out what a big deal Lisa Apolinski is in the digital marketing space. Lisa's helped me with some columns for Forbes.com on predictions for digital marketing for the coming year. And they've been some of my most well-read columns, is her predictions and some other people's predictions that are there. There's a tip too, if you're looking for something to write for your blog or an article, the end of the year prediction article, very popular. What are the trends? What's happening? Well, Lisa's on top of that. I believe it was her idea to do it. I take full credit for it now, but it was her great idea. And she wanted to do a second book. And as we brainstormed and talked about persuasion, and I have some books on Persuade with a story, and how important that was in the digital world. And Lisa definitely had ideas and ideas on where she could take this and where we could help people with it. And it was just such a great experience to work with her and publish this book that she'll talk to you more about. So let's give the talking stick to our special guest today, Lisa Apolinski.
Well, thank you. Thank you for that introduction. I appreciate that. And I am very, very excited to be here and to be able to talk to you about not being the hero in your story. This is, I don't want to say a mistake. This is something that a lot of companies still don't quite understand. And I work with Fortune 100 companies, and they still are like, but I want to be the hero in my story. I don't understand why I can't do that. And I don't want to say that it's wrong. There is no right or wrong, good or bad. Put morality to the side for a second and just look at power behind your story, and why the role that you choose is so important in getting that power to create possibility. And in that possibility is where you get accelerated revenue and additional sales. And that's what we're looking for. We want to get as much sale as possible and really as quickly as we can. So let's step back just for a second and talk about why we focus on digital storytelling. I've been seeing so many articles and so many podcasts around digital storytelling, and I'm really, really happy about it. The reason why storytelling is so powerful is because people are already hardwired for stories. I'm going to say that again. People are hardwired for stories. Now, if you think back to when you were growing up, stories were read to you. We've seen books come out, movies, TV shows. Everything revolves around a story. People understand how stories unfold. They understand that there's a beginning, a middle, and an end. And they understand that certain roles are always in stories. And so they understand the formula already. So if you think about it this way, your prospects and your clients have been training for storytelling and to hear your story for their entire life. That's powerful. That's exciting. They already are ready to go to listen to your story. So the story is important, and the roles that we choose are important. When we think about the role that we are casting ourselves in our story, we want to think about not only what we're looking at, our role, but then what is the opposing role? There's always a counterpoint, right? You're not going to have a conversation by yourself. There's always two people who are in a dialogue. So what we choose as our story as the company or client or service provider will then help our audience to determine and to choose, and they'll just do it automatically because, again, they're already hardwired for this. They're already hardwired for stories. They will choose a subsequent role. Now, in my book, you'll see there are three main roles, and I'll quickly go through them. There's the protagonist, right? We have to have a main character that drives the story forward. We have to have some kind of a nemesis. There has to be something that our main character overcomes in order to get to a new point. If there was no struggle, there wouldn't be any story. It would just be, I went to, 7-Eleven and got a Coke Zero and it was an okay day. No one's going to read that. And then our last role that we want to enter into our story is our mentor character. Now, when people hear the protagonist, the hero story, you can either cast it for yourself or you can cast it for your audience, the prospect that you are engaging with, the prospect that you want to become a client. And again, not right or wrong, good or bad, just what is the power behind each role. So let's talk about if you cast yourself as the hero. And I know you want to do it. It's juicy, right? We all want to be the hero and come in and save the day. If you cast yourself as the hero, let's say you cast yourself as Superman, who is the opposite role to Superman? It's Lois Lane. Lois Lane isn't going to be the nemesis, right? He doesn't have to get past her. She's certainly not going to be the mentor because she constantly gets herself into trouble. So when we cast ourselves as hero in our story, we are asking our audience to show up as the damsel in distress. Now, again, there's nothing wrong with being the hero in your story, but think about what you're limiting yourself in terms of your possibility. The hero, when they're rescuing Lois Lane, they really have one shot to do it, right? You got one opportunity and it has to be perfect. There really is no room for error. How many times are you really going to be called in to be the hero? Once, twice, 3 times? at some point, they're going to be tired of being in the damsel in distress role. And you're coming in to save a catastrophic event when you're asked to come in as the hero. They don't ask you to come in to get over an obstacle or provide some wisdom. It's the sky is falling and we're all going to die, and we need the hero to come in and save us. And you have to wait in a lot of times to get to that point with your client or your prospect. So that's one role you can certainly cast yourself in. But as you can see, there are certain limitations to what you can do and what's possible. So now let's flip over to, if we have our audience, our prospect, define themselves in the role of hero, because we're casting our client as the hero in the role, and we're showing them, if this client can do this and you relate to that client, it means you too have the power to save yourself. I'm simply here to guide you, to mentor you along the way. So if I cast my hero, my client, let's say we pick Luke Skywalker, since we just came off May the 4th. I will inevitably be put in as the mentor. I will be put in as Obi-Wan or Yoda, because that's the opposite role. If I looked at Daniel-san from The Karate Kid, I would be Mr. Miyagi. So now let's look at what power is in the role of mentor when we have our audience, our protagonist, be the hero in the story. The mentor doesn't have to get it right every single time. It's not the sky is falling. It's smaller obstacles that they get through. And the obstacles can be a variety of things. So you as the mentor can pivot with your client, with your prospect, and help them whatever the new obstacle is that comes up. And if I'm constantly pivoting with my client, that means I have a repeat customer. And that is great. If I take the time to get a customer, if I'm able to extend the life cycle of my customer and get more revenue in, and again, it's because I'm helping them each time, fantastic. The projects or the situation doesn't have to be catastrophic, does it? I mean, in The Karate Kid, Mr. Miyagi certainly saves Daniel-san when he's being attacked, but he also takes him to the dojo and teaches him life lessons and helps him with his relationship with his mom and helps him with his relationship with himself. There are so many different opportunities that present themselves for Mr. Miyagi to help Daniel-san get over the next obstacle that comes up. And as we know, there are always obstacles that will happen with a business or with a client. That's life. And when we're helping our audience envision themselves in the role of hero, that's great in the best of times, but consider we're coming out of a pandemic. Consider what the next horrible thing is that's coming down the pike. And trust me, something else is coming and we just don't know what it is. It could be an asteroid attack. It could be attack from Mars. It could be a zombie apocalypse. We have no idea. But if we are helping our audience to feel empowered, to feel, you know what, with these tools and this information, I can actually survive this. There's a lot of power in that for our clients. And I would be struggling to think of someone who would rather you just save them versus being empowered to save themselves. The last thing, and I think it's really important, is the aspect of hope. When you are helping your clients and through your storytelling, showing your prospects what's possible, you're giving them hope to be able to let go of any insecurities, let go of any considerations they might be adding or their own stories in their head, and help them to actually envision themselves being successful, whatever that looks like. And if something else happens in a pandemic or something else, and you have to pivot your services, it's much easier to pivot when you are in the role of mentor and you're simply providing your expertise and guidance in whatever the obstacle is, versus as the hero having to somehow save the day and have it be really a very narrow field of services and products that you're able to provide. There's so much more possibility when you allow and give up the role of hero and give it to your prospect and your client and allow them to come to you, because they know that you will help them to succeed and that they have that power within themselves. So when you're thinking about what you're writing and you're looking at your digital content, and again, it's very easy to slip into the hero role because we all want to be that. When you're writing your digital content, pull it up and look at it and ask yourself, if I was going to write this as a script and I was going to hand it to a character, who would it be? Would it be Luke Skywalker, or would it be Obi-Wan? Would it be Lois Lane, or would it be Superman? And as you start to look at that and see where you're showing up and how, you'll be able to make that pivot. And it really is just a slight pivot. But again, the possibility and the power that's there is so incredible. And to have that power and to be able to really affect, touch, move, and inspire your audience to overcome, to be successful, and to continue to grow will absolutely pay back to you in dividends as you move forward with your business. And I'm not sure where I am on time.
Well, you're great, but I want to do Q&A and some interaction here. And I started speaking before I had clicked on mute. So I now owe $1 to the Mark LeBlanc Young Entrepreneur Foundation. So
awesome.
That's some of the rules there. Okay, so Lisa, with your help, I'd like all the authors on the call. We're going to play a game, and fantastic. They're all going to speak.
Okay.
And I'm going to have Mark be the first one, and I'll be the second one to get us going. But we're all mentors. If you're an author, you're a mentor. If you're a coach, you're a mentor. So let's take this mentoring thing. In the book I wrote with Mark, Defining You and Kathy McAfee, we talk about a defining paragraph. And there's 7 parts to it. One part is, sometimes it's called the 2 mores. People report working with me, they get these 2 mores. So Mark, could I ask you to give yours, please?
Thank you, Henry. And sentence number 6 of the 7-sentence template is a value statement or the result statement. And the lead-in often sounds something like this. As a result of my work, people often share they have more blank and more blank. 2 specific results, although it could be 3 and it could be 4. So for example, my value statement is, as a result of my work, people often share they are more focused on a daily basis, able to attract more prospects, stimulate more referrals, and ultimately create a path and a plan for generating more business. That's an example of a value statement. Thank you, Henry.
Thank you, Mark. So as a result of working with me, independent consultants report that they have more impact and influence and more money in their bank account. There's mine. So David Goldman, I'm going to pick on you. I'm going to select you next, volunteer you next. David, why don't you share yours?
Thank you, Henry. Pick away. As a result of working with me, clients report that they have more control and in their communication, which results in more money in their pocket and more fulfillment in their life.
Thank you. Why don't we go with John Lockhorst and then Mary Schmidt?
As a result of working with me, clients experience lower turnover, break down silos, build employee engagement, and build a robust pipeline of emerging leaders.
Thank you. Mary?
As a result of my clients working with me, they say that they have an extreme focus on what really matters to the clients and how to stay present in every conversation. And that's, my friend, what builds trust.
So I'm going to do a pattern interrupt and talk about you, Mary. Is that okay? I come to praise you, Mary, not to bury you. So
yeah, go for it.
Okay. You do such great work with financial representatives and get them to have meaningful conversations, conversations of connection. So there's a lot of opportunities you have. And one of my, I love watching cooking videos, and one guy is always saying, "You're the El Jefe of your own chef. You know, you're the own master of your kitchen. You get to decide." So in this point here is you get to decide, you can change it up. Some of us have had the benefit of going through this. I know all of you, when you're working with me as an author, this comes up. This is not new to you, but I didn't tell Mark or anybody we were going to do this. I was just so moved by Lisa's comment on the mentor that I wanted to do this. So I wanted to give everybody a chance here. No wrong choice, but let's go with Chris Hodges and then Diane Ployce.
Okay. As a result of working with me, clients are able to, am I? Yeah, okay. I thought I was muted. As a result of working with me, clients are able to innovate profitably with automation and better engage their teams for higher retention and loyalty.
Thank you. How about Diane?
Okay. As a result of people working with me, they have more control over their lives and they get the bounce back in their step.
Nice. How about Joe and then Megan?
When people work with me, they often find that they grow their business, get more referrals, and learn how to emotionally sell what their clients want to buy.
Thanks. Megan?
Okay, I was just saying I've never done this before, so it's a good exercise. As a result of working with me, my clients have more clarity about their point of view, purpose, and proof points, and more confidence in understanding how to bring their brand to life in intuitively satisfying ways throughout the customer experience, causing customers to do the marketing for them through positive word of mouth marketing.
Thank you, Megan. And I just wanted to do a sound check with producer Suzanne. Am I coming in better now?
Yes, perfect.
Okay, thank you. Okay, that was on the fly. On June 17th and 18th, and maybe Suzanne, you can put something in the chat about this, is our author retreat. I have a few spots open. And what we do is train for things like this, because we feel you never know when this opportunity is going to come up. And, well, I don't know. Let's talk about a great team, the Kansas City Chiefs. Why do the Kansas City Chiefs practice? They know how to play football. It's because the games are so important. So the game of being an author and a speaker is so important. You never know when you're going to need to stand and deliver. And it's like an airplane pilot getting flight time to get better. You need stage time to get better. As my buddy Darren LaCroix, a world champion of speaking from Toastmasters, talks about all the time: stage time, stage time, stage time. So we're always looking for opportunities to speak. So we like to provide opportunities. The monthly book kickoff class, if I have space, I can get you in. And part of it, even though your book is done, it's about talking about your book to other authors and speakers. Sometimes I invite you to speak on one of our monthly Zoominars we do with people who are interested in learning more about this whole process. That's a great opportunity to get practice. The retreat is 2 days of opportunity to speak, practice, learn nuances, and also use it as a retreat to get your plan together. So if anybody's interested in that, they can have a conversation with me. If you want to learn more, Suzanne will put where you can go on the website to learn more about our events, and that's certainly listed. Well, with that, let's go back to Lisa Apolinski. And Lisa, storytelling, certainly great. We see it in movies. When you were talking about Lois Lane, I kept thinking about some of those Superman movies. And because Lois Lane, I mean, she's great. You know, she's accomplished and smart, and she is the best reporter at the Daily Planet, certainly. But she does, but being out there and doing those things gets her into perils. And so just love the analogy. I also love the movie where Lois and Superman had decided to take a break, and Lois gets married to someone else, and Superman disappears for a couple of years, but Lois Lane's plane is going down, and who appears out of nowhere to save the plane from crashing, and comes into the cabin, and, you know, he doesn't talk to anybody else, just says to Lois, "Are you okay? Everything okay?" "Yeah, I'm fine." And everybody's thinking like, awkward. Why are we here with all these people? Okay, so thanks for some good Superman moments. Let's talk about your defining story. I'd like to go to your defining story. So I didn't find Lisa Apolinski to work with me. She found me, and she asked for a cup of coffee. And there's a coffee shop across from my office. So I said, sure, you know, half an hour, I'll have a cup of coffee. It was like 3.5 hours later. I think we needed to order lunch or something because I was so fascinated with the direction her agency was going in, because I come in from an agency background, what she wanted to do, her systems thinking, but also her origin story. So this is where you get to tell your origin story. You are the hero of this story. So Lisa, could you give us the example of your origin story? I believe it happened in Italy.
Yes, it happened in Milan, Italy. The month was January and the location was Milan, Italy. I had just come out of a grueling, yet again, 14-hour workday while I was there. And during the course of the day, I had been yelled at by my boss in front of my Italian colleagues, not once, not twice, but 3 times, about something as simple as creating a brochure, something I'm well able to do. And I really had no outlet other than my poor sister. So I got back to the hotel room and I called her up. And I just started complaining and saying, this stinks. I'm in Italy, and this is so frustrating. And I just don't know how much I can take of this. And my sister asked me a question that planted the seed that changed the course of my career. She said, well, you know, you've been doing some side work with some former colleagues and vendors. How do you feel when you work with them? And I'm like, oh, it's great. I'm respected and people listen to me and, you know, actually follow what I'm saying. And it's fantastic. And she said, well, then I don't understand. Why don't you do that full time and invest in yourself? And it literally had never occurred to me to go out on my own full time. And with that conversation and that question, which clearly was obvious to her and I was totally blind to it, that one question, it pivoted me slightly to think of something else. And that opened up the possibility of running my own agency full time. And I have been doing it for 9 years now. And I have no desire to slow down or stop.
Thanks so much. So I guess the nemesis character in your story is the man, or Bob Dylan would call it Maggie's Farm. I'm not going to work on Maggie's Farm anymore. I have nightmares at times, and Devin DeVries, our VP, has the same nightmare, interestingly, and it's not because we're related. It's because we both left corporate to found Indie Books International. And the idea of, you know, the nightmare is usually, oh, we need you in Cleveland tomorrow. There's a meeting. We're going to need your report. Did you fill out the memo yet? You know, it's like, the corporate world. Well, let's talk about the work you do to help people. I don't think I let you do your statement. Do you want to play and do your statement?
Oh, sure. As a result of working with me and my agency, clients report having the ability to accelerate their revenue in new and unique ways, increase lead conversion, and get better results for their marketing efforts.
Thanks. The seventh sentence in the book, Defining You, and I hope you take up the offer to get a copy and examine this. In Defining You, the seventh sentence is on a personal note. So I just did a friendly tease when we opened and asked her on her personal note, because I'm so impressed that she's an opera singer. And you know, I'm opera. And there was one time we had to meet. She goes, oh, you know, I have to take my violin lesson, and this was during the COVID time. So hats off to you, Lisa.
Yeah.
I gave a speech once to some business owners. And then they invited me back to speak to their VPs, you know, a month later. And I introduced myself and I said, well, I'm, you know, to a man named David. Never forget meeting David. And, you know, I said, David, nice to meet you. My name's Henry DeVries. Oh, I know who you are. You're the reason I had to change every article on the company website. So I think I was the villain nemesis character in his story, but I asked how it worked out. It says, oh, much more engagement. So why don't we talk about in the digital world what we mean by its digital content story that we're using these stories?
Yeah, so any piece of communication that you have in the digital space, whether it's on a website, on your social media channels, you're sending it via email, any way that you communicate tells a story. Your images, your background, your words, even something as simple as a tweet, everything can tell a story and should be leading towards a story about you and your products and services and how they helped your audience. That's where I think a lot of people get stuck, and they get stuck in the hero road because they want to talk about themselves and rah, rah, rah. And that's great. But your audience wants to know how you can help them. So you really need to get to that completion of that story. As a result of working with me and my agency, my clients report getting So a lot of times they'll stop and they'll talk about the things that they do, thinking that the audience already knows what the results are going to be. And you have to draw that line and help your audiences take it from where they are now to where they want to go.
Lisa, you do such a great job at transforming companies' ho-hum case studies into blockbuster stories that are just compelling to hear and read. And if it's in video, where we all need to expand there, to see it in video form. So let's go back in time. It's like a year ago, and all of a sudden you can't travel and you can't give speeches, and you are in lockdown like the rest of us. You're in Arizona in lockdown. But you're going to be the hero of this story. You picked up the phone and called some people.
Yeah, I was very bold in small doses, but I was bold. So again, leaders always lead. Leaders always lead. You are a leader. You are writing a book and doing speeches. You're going to lead. And I had noticed that I saw other companies trying different things, sending these communications. And I thought, if I'm a leader and I feel like the communication is okay, but if they actually took it from the mentor role and were giving tools and tips, that would be way more powerful for other people to kind of get through this pandemic. And every time I got an email from Chris Nassetta from Hilton and Brian Monahan from Bank of America, and you're talking like the top people, and they're sending these personal emails. And I'm like, if they're sending me a personal email, that means I can respond to them. And if I can help them to show up differently with their client base so that their client base can get through this, they will inevitably win in the end. They will have provided value and it will give them long-term relevancy. And I started calling up people and I got a little crazy. And when I started actually talking to some people, they were like, it'd be great to get some CEOs together and talk about what it is that we're struggling with. And again, kind of lead and share and help. And so I called you up, Henry, and I'm like, let's have a CEO roundtable and let's talk about this. And let's talk about where we're hitting the wall and where we're falling down and how we can actually pivot and get through this. And those were some of the best conversations I've been a part of. It's been remarkable. And I still think that leadership and those conversations are still having an effect today.
We had amazing CEOs respond to us. This is Hint Water, the CEO of Hint Water.
Kara Golden, she's fabulous. Yeah.
Who were some of the others?
We had Heidi Zach from Third Love. I'm like, we had some like just amazing people. We had Susan Sly. She actually wrote the book When Life Gives You Lemons, Make Something Other Than Lemonade. She's hilarious. And she runs an AI company. I mean, just some amazing thought leaders in different spaces that really showed up and just did an amazing job. And, when you get CEOs from very large companies and you can only ask them one question because each of them will talk for 15, 20 minutes. And we only gave ourselves an hour. So we were trying to get through everybody too. But even just asking them the one question, they were just dropping information bomb after information bomb. And it was fabulous.
We used it in the book. I used it for Forbes.com columns. We linked the video. So we were on the YouTube channels with it. We were surprised at how welcome they were to have a platform, a bully pulpit, as Teddy Roosevelt would say, to get some messages across. And one of the messages is whatever it takes to get the job done. Yes. If it means driving on the truck and delivering the cases to Soda of Hint during the disruption of the supply chain, then that was the job.
That's right.
And Faizi Fatahi, who is a legend in Silicon Valley, has won the Lifetime Achievement Award up there. He's with Hewlett Packard and has his own company now. As you said, information bombs, just.
And they were feverishly writing. Each time someone said something, they're like, oh, I gotta write that down.
Write that down.
Yeah.
There was one CEO who, you know, took herself off video for a while and came back, and she came to me afterwards and said, it's because the 3-year-old and the dog were coming into the room, and we said, we get it. We're all at home, you know, it's, we're doing the best we can.
Yeah.
So speaking, how has the book opened doors for you for some speaking?
Oh gosh. So like I said earlier, digital storytelling is a super hot topic right now, which is great. We all learned going through the pandemic that when things are locked down, the only way you can get to people is through your computer or your smartphone. So, you know, your communication becomes even more vital. I have been able to be on just so many podcasts, and I'm always looking for another one because I love talking about this stuff, because again, it's a concept that sounds really simple, but is probably one of the hardest things that companies struggle with to be able to implement, because they backslide and they want to be like, but I want to be the hero. And you have to really be like, no, and make them let that go. I've been interviewed. I got interviewed a few weeks ago with an Australian newscast. That wasn't stressful at all. 6 minutes to talk about it. I'm like, because, you know, I want to sit there, and the guy was the anchor was just like, this is amazing. And like, why do they do this? And I think he wanted to continue, and they were like, cut, go to the next story. And he's like, but because again, everyone is familiar with storytelling. It's not like you're coming up with something that no one's heard of. It's actually paying attention to your storytelling, making it purposeful. And when you have that purpose, that's how you're able to persuade.
You bring up such a great point. And I'll just share something here, that podcasts are the gift that keeps giving. They give you time. Look, we're taking 45 minutes today to get into this topic. With those CEOs, we gave them an hour. Radio, television, different. Television, if you get 4 to 6 minutes, 6 minutes is a lot on TV.
Yeah, I got 5.5, and I was like, holy
You're not going
Jesus.
to educate deeply.
No.
You're going to have a main message that you need to get across, and you're going to mention your book title 3 times.
Yep.
Radio can be longer, but no visuals. So it's all sound. So you need to do techniques like, as I say in chapter 7 of my book, Persuade with a Digital Content Story, or as I highlighted the story in my book about Superman and Lois Lane and Lex Luthor in my book, Persuade with a Digital Content Story. So without being over the top and seem like a pushy promotional pest, you know, the pitch fest type people who we're the opposite of, whatever they would do, just do the opposite. You need, though, to bring up the book title several times. I helped with a book. I helped get an author on Larry King. This is, you know, when Larry King was big 20 years ago, and he gets to the end of the interview and he hasn't mentioned the title of the book. And Larry King says, Dan, is there anything else you wanted to mention? Is there anything else you wanted to share before we close the interview? And he said, no, Larry, we've covered it all. And afterwards he said to me, I should have mentioned the book, right? Yeah, you should have mentioned the book. That would have been good. So our job in an interview is we need to prepare for it. We need to promote our book, our message, and how we help people. And then these are all performance media. You need to have energy. You need to come across as interested and exciting without being that shouting pitch man. I don't know if you remember that pitch man who used to wear a suit with all these question marks on it. And He would be on commercials, and his book was answered all these questions about how to get free money from the government. And he would run around talking about this great book, Free Money from the Government. And I caught up with him and interviewed him one day. And that was his shtick. That was his act. He had been an engineer by training. And he just said, Henry, I've written one book with 100 titles. I just keep giving it a new title and revising it. And then I just go on. And if I'm not excited about this book, who else is going to be excited? Yep. In the microcosm of the TV and radio interview. Okay.
Yeah. And I love that idea of a performance. TV and radio are really almost like improv, because I gave questions to the news guy and he asked me stuff that, it just came into his head. And for an anchor, that's dangerous. You don't want them making up questions because they can run off on a tangent. So you got to bring them back to your book.
Oh, yes. You just reminded me, one of the people I interviewed for the Rainmaker Confidential book is the head of a very large public relations agency, very successful. They do a lot of media training with CEOs. And he said, for years, I trained CEOs on what to say during all kinds of disasters, earthquakes, fires, flood, fraud. Pandemic was not on the list. We never trained anyone on what to say during a pandemic, but we've added it to the list.
Yeah.
Lisa, thanks so much for spending some time with us. Very valuable, great insights. We're very proud to have you as a member of the Indie Books family. Thank you so much.
And before I forget,
yes.
I do have some codes for a free Audible download of the book, Persuade with a Digital Content Story. So if you're like, reading's hard, you can actually just listen to it.
Oh, reading's
Some
the
people
worst.
are like, blah, reading.
But, am I right?
Yeah. So if you would like to receive a code, and they're individual codes for everyone on the podcast, if you put in your email address, Suzanne will send it to me. I'm sure if I run out, I can steal some from Henry. And if you're watching this after it's been recorded, go ahead and send me an email. It's lisa@3dogwrite.com. It's Lisa, Lisa, at the number 3, dog, D-O-G, write, W-R-I-T-E, like write like a pen, .com.
Oh, like 3 Dog Night. I just got it.
Like 3 Dog Night. Just 3 Dog Write.
3 Dog Write. Well, right on. Okay, thank you so much, Lisa. Thanks everybody for attending today. And we look forward to seeing you on a future edition of the Marketing with a Book podcast. Thanks, everybody.